Chris Horns has a new key switch concept. Key switches are organized in presets. Instead of just changing articulations, the key switch presets allow to store a lot of different functions in a single key switch. 18 key switches are located on the left side of the keyboard. Simply press one of the keys between C0 and F1 to select a key switch preset. You can also turn the preset knob in the user interface. These are the articulations of the default programming. Okay, so first let's assign an articulation to a key switch preset. I choose key switch G0 and select an articulation from the drop-down menu. There are more articulations available than key switches, so I strongly recommend to check them out all, because in the default programming not all articulations are assigned. So I select pickup 1 for this key switch. That's just a short grace note followed by a long sustain. Three different key switch modes are available for each key switch. Setting key switch mode to normal means the key switch preset stays active until another preset is selected. Key switch mode next note is perfect for an articulation like the grace note because it's only active until the next note is played. After this note, the preset jumps back to the first preset on C0, which usually is a sustain, but of course doesn't have to. So, if you play a melody and just want to throw in some notes in the different articulations, you don't have to care about getting back to the sustain articulation. Next key switch mode is hold, which means the key switch preset is active as long as you hold the key switch key. As soon as you release the key switch key, the preset jumps back to the preset on C0. Key switch transpose lets you transpose the notes for each key switch preset separately. So, if for some reason you would like to have several articulations an octave higher or lower, you can set that here. Speed control is another cool new feature. It lets you assign a different articulation when playing at higher speed. I try to carefully capture the attack of all notes in the instruments. Especially when playing softer notes, the attack phase can be pretty long. Maybe too long when you play faster melodies. Therefore you can select the sustain speed articulation, which is a special version of the sustain samples with a faster attack. So when playing faster staccato lines, only the first note has the full attack phase, the following notes played within an adjustable time range have a faster attack. And the timing of the whole melody line is far better. You can also use the speed control to vary the sound, for example to alter the short articulations. Time lets you set the time between two notes to perform the speed control articulation switch. The time range is shown in milliseconds. If you set the time to, let's say, 200 milliseconds, all notes played within that time range will be played by the speed control articulation. If you set the time to 0, the speed control articulation will be ignored. Now we come to the part where we spend most attention to when developing Chris horns. The various ways to perform a transition between two notes, the glide mode and legato. There are two ways to perform the special note transition: using the sustain pedal or playing a note, hold it and play another note. This way you can have two different transition modes during performance without touching the interface or any external controller or what. Each key switch preset can have its own glide mode and legato settings, which means you can have up to 18 different note transition settings just by pressing a key switch key. The legato mode has 10 different presets, which you can edit in detail in the legato settings page. We'll talk about that later. Let's have a closer look at the glide mode. I assign the glide mode to the sustain pedal. Now, when I play a note, press the sustain pedal while holding the note, then play another note, you'll hear a perfect run from the first to the second note. Of course, the speed of the run is adjustable. The default controller to adjust the glide mode speed is CC5, but you can easily set this controller to the mod wheel or any other controller you like. Here I'm changing the speed with the mod wheel now. You can even change the speed of the glide while it's running. The glide mode works up to 12 semitones up and down, but you may not want all notes to be played in the run. Here comes max step, which sets the maximum amount of notes to be played. Setting the maximum to 3, for example, always performs a run playing only the last 3 semitones before the destination note. Remember, each key switch preset can have its own settings, so if you like to switch between different glide mode settings, you can do so by simply setting different glide mode settings on different key switch presets. Let's have a look at one of the most powerful features in Chris Horn's, the legato. When you play a note, hold it, and play another note, a smooth transition between these two notes is performed. This transition is a pretty complex combination of blending volume and pitch. Usually, a special version of the sustained samples with a truncated attack is used as the legato articulation. But the clue in Chris Horn's is that you can choose any articulation to perform the legato. You can even set different articulations for legato up and legato down. Some of the articulations provide a special beginning instead of a straight attack, as they are bandings, different versions of pickups, and the glide mode samples. Ten different legato presets are available. Each key switch preset can have its own legato preset. In the legato settings page, you find all the details to edit the legato note transitions. First, choose one of the 10 presets to be edited. Now you can adjust the fade-out time of the first note and the fade-in time of the second note in milliseconds. Offset sets the time before the fade begins. Next, we adjust the detuning of the notes during the transition. On the real instruments, especially on a saxophone, the tone bends in the direction of the second note during the transition. This detuning happens at the end of the first note and at the beginning of the second note. That's why the detuning can be adjusted separately for the first and for the second note. The time of the detuning is adjustable in milliseconds and the amount of the detuning in cents. Slope spreads the amount of detuning. A higher slope value results in a lower amount of legato when playing small intervals, like a semitone, and a higher amount when playing larger intervals, like an octave. The legato behavior of each instrument is different, so it's worth to experiment a little bit with these settings, especially when using different articulations.